Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new camp. So, today we're working with one of the pieces added by the most recent Once in a Blue Moon update, specifically the Canopy Tent, which is a centerpiece for this build. Yeah, this tent reminds me a little bit of some of the tents we had back in Fallout 4, particularly some of the modded ones. And it's got quite the raidery vibe, kind of, but it's pretty cool. Bit awkward to work with, but I knew I wanted to work with it as soon as possible after I actually discovered it. So taking a quick look at where we are. We are down here in the Cranberry Bog. This is a spot where I had my mausoleum, my Brotherhood mausoleum that I did the other week using the new porch pieces. And I picked this spot because, well, I needed to find a very, very flat piece of ground in a hurry, and this certainly qualifies. So we're back down here. And yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with the way this came out, to be honest. The tent is weird in a lot of ways. Not surprising. It's kind of scrappy, a bit ramshackle. It's got holes in it. But it's also kind of a weird shape, which we'll have a look at in a bit more detail in a moment. But it really, really needs to go on a piece of flat ground. I should say, by the way, if you want to pick it up, it comes from the Beasts of Burden event, one of the new ones. And yeah. It's the centerpiece of a scrappy build. I knew I wanted to use this as soon as I got my hands on it. I was over the moon about that. So, yeah, really needs to be on flat ground. Otherwise, those guy ropes you can see coming off the corners just won't meet the ground. They don't have any additional length. They don't clip through the ground at all. So if it's not flat, you're going to be a bit knackered on that. So that's why I chose this spot. I actually quite like how it works on this spot, to be honest. But obviously, it's open at the sides. And really needed to be enclosed in some way, I felt. Partly for security, partly for a windbreak, because it'll keep the vertical rain off, mostly, apart from the holes. But it won't do much for the sideways wind and rain and stuff that comes onto the side. So I wanted to make it look a little bit more livable. So we've got some junk walls here that are fairly standard to try and enclose it a little bit. It's a mixture of fences stacked up with some extra textures on there and junk fences. There's a chain link fence in the back there with the signs in front of it are from the Atomic Shop. They're sort of vendor signs. There's a couple of different shapes. These are the short, wide ones that stack quite neatly on top of each other. And then you can put wall decoration, basically other signs in this case, on the front of it, and it creates kind of a nice improvised wall piece in and of itself. So that's what I did to texture this up. You see I've got a few functional items on the outside of the tent here, as well as a whole bunch of just sort of set dressing junky stuff to just kind of thicken up the walls a little bit, give it a bit more texture. Make the whole thing look kind of a scrap heap, kind of lived-in vibe. Very post-apocalyptic shelter kind of thing going on. Not really sort of bomb shelter, but just sort of keeps the weather off shelter. But yeah, I quite like the look of this. It's really got that kind of scrappy, cobbled together, anything you can use to keep the weather off you vibe, which I quite like. And yeah, mixed a few different bits and pieces in. You can see there's a whole load of other just random stuff dragged back, spaced out with bits and pieces that are relevant and useful. So you've got the Radstag field dressing station, which is kind of a fixture now, because I use that thing to keep my character fed, and it's brilliant from the last season. So you need a bathroom, you need a shower, and it does a nice job of that as well. And also, stick them on the outside, textures up. Yeah, I do quite like this. I'm sort of panning back around the front. We've got my vendor out front here as well. Pulling double duty with the vendor. You can find it, it's easy to spot. Lots of colour there as well. And it also, again, adds a little bit of depth and texture to the front of the build. I've got this front wall, by the way. I kind of, unlike the others, I angled this one out a little bit away from the tent, just to create a little bit more internal space. Changed the shape up just a little bit. Quite like it. There's a lot of colour from this front angle, but there's also kind of a lot of brown, beaten up, rusted stuff that kind of offsets that. Makes the whole thing look very, very improvised, and I quite like it. A couple of punji boards out front just to make sure any wasteland denizens don't come running straight into my tent. There's not really anything else to prevent them here. I could have put a gate on there, but it just wouldn't have felt right. Yeah, you can sort of see this tent is really quite beaten up and a bit of a weird shape there. I've got a whole bunch of stuff there just to add kind of improvised decoration to it. We've got the fireflies in jars and whole loads of detail around this. Should say the reason I'm not doing this as a build and I'm doing it as a tour is partly because time. I needed something quick to do, which actually this only took me about 3 hours, so that's cool. And also because in terms of the building there isn't a great deal, it's mostly decoration, but it works, I think. A little chemistry area there. Do like using the oil lamps. They do put out quite a lot of nice warm orange light, but they don't overdo it. There's just sort of a couple of them here and there with a couple of little lanterns as well. Obviously no power in this build because it's not really that kind of a build, is it? But I do like the look. Improvised bed there. I wish I was a little shorter. I wish I'd gone for shorter stash boxes, but these are all nice even height, so they work really well for that kind of improvised basis for a bed. But it works. It's in the corner and improvised. Probably a bit damp if it starts to rain in the night, but otherwise they'll be fine. So with the kind of layout and the decoration in here, I wanted to make sure we had room to move around, but keep it mostly functional rather than comfort, which kind of fits with the making do with a broken old tent kind of vibe. And I think I've managed that quite well. We've got most of the crafting benches are inside, apart from in terms of sort of living space and creature comforts, all we've really got is the bed and a chair. Other than that, very functional, plenty of room to move around. So we've got some of the benches outside that wouldn't fit in here without closing up the space and making it difficult to move around inside. But I do like this, the feel of this place has really come together quite nicely. And when I initially put the tent down, I looked at it with nothing else there. I was kind of wondering, what on earth am I going to do to make this work? And I thought, well, maybe if I close off the sides, how am I going to do that? And I just really wasn't sure, but once I started rolling, kind of sort of tying together a bit more. Which, the height of the walls works quite well for that, so quite pleased with how it's come out all in all. You can sort of see the shape of the tent here quite well, and the key thing obviously is you've got different sized openings on each side. There are different heights. The posts that hold the tent up are in different places. So you can kind of put it down, turn it around, figure out where you want to have the front and how you want it to look, and play around with it. Different sides are different heights as well, the sort of entranceways at the sides. So you can sort of mess around, see what you like the look of, and enclose the rest of it. But quite pleased with the way I've put this one together. I would have liked to have taken this place and done it somewhere where there's short-ish grass. Not kind of White Springs type vibe, it's a bit too luminous. But somewhere a bit more wild with short grass rather than just having mud in here. But the mud also kind of works if you think of the foot traffic crushing off all the grass. Then yeah, it's probably going to end up being a bit muddy in there. Yeah, that tent, I really wanted to use it from the moment I saw it. As I say, it drops from Beasts of Burden, which is down here in the Cranberry Bog, actually. And quite pleased with it. I used something similar on occasion back in Fallout 4, so it kind of harkens back a little bit to that in a way that I quite like. And love the detail, love the kind of contrast between the colour and the brown. There's an awful lot of brown in this. But it's come together in quite a nice in air quotes, because it's scrappy as all heck, but quite a nice style. And pleased with this for something I needed to do in a hurry, because there was a whole story with me trying to renew Fallout First this week that was kind of a nightmare, but yeah, it cut my time down, but all in all, rather pleased. So I hope you folks did enjoy this one. If you did, please do consider dropping subs and likes. I do appreciate it. Social media links, merch store, channel memberships, all that stuff available on the buttons and links down below. If you want to check that out, and if you get a chance, join us for live streams as well. We're playing Fallout 76 and Metro Exodus, and we've got Starfield on the horizon. Cannot wait. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.